Assalamu alaikum everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got so many dramas to go over and it's Ramadan, so we have to go over it really quick and let's get right into it. So first we're going to start with Iqtidar because this is my least favorite drama and I basically stopped watching it and have not kept up with it. I got to the point where basically Shahnawaz Shah's brother gets shot and he's about to die or he dies, and I am not complaining. That's a great place to leave the show because the show is just not that great. If like we're gonna talk about some of the other shows that I really like, and honestly this show is nothing compared to some of the better shows that have either finished or are still airing, and I just don't understand why this show is so intensely popular. You know, like it's such a basic plot and the characters I feel like don't have as much depth as they could have had, and it could have been so much more interesting. So I just wanted to talk about that, and let's like honestly go over a couple other shows that I am not really interested in anymore or have really disappointed me. The second one being Hijr. This drama was like it's newer and I feel like this show could have had a lot more potential, but the way they showed the two main characters, ek to wo ladki jo hai na, she's so studious and that's all she cares about. She just wants to be a doctor and she doesn't care about like getting married and all of this stuff because what's important to her is her school and studies. And then we have this other guy character who is really self-righteous, and that's the thing I have an issue with, especially with male characters sometimes, because I feel like they try to paint that like men are in this, they are this like almost perfect creatures, which they're not, and they do that often with some of the female characters. But right now with this drama, this guy is so insufferable to watch because he's so disrespectful to his fiance, who he then decides to leave because he realizes that she was also in the wrong. She just wanted to get married to him so she could say that she's married to this person with this high like position, right? So essentially she wanted to be like a trophy wife, which he was so offended by, and I totally understand why. But I'm like, you grow up in that culture or in that environment where you know that this is like pretty common. Why are you so surprised? I just don't understand. And also like he didn't think twice about it. He just left the situation and whatever, and he's trying to be so delicate with this other person who is uski unki kuch nahi lagti, right? And like they're gonna eventually be together, and I just don't know if I'm that interested. But that's how I feel about that drama. The next drama that's really disappointed me is honestly Faraar. I feel like there's so much potential with this drama and I think I could potentially pick it up again after like Rose are done. But the thing with Faraar is that it's a bit disappointing because I feel like they just couldn't maintain my interest, and having one episode a week was really hard to maintain how like my interest because of how like dynamic the show is. There's so many different plot lines that are supposed to come together, that were starting to come together, but I just could not maintain like my interest, or it could not maintain my interest. And honestly, I really don't like that the police officer and that girl are gonna get married. Like it's coming out of left field and I don't like it, especially like I thought you didn't want to give this impression that, you know, like why is this girl, orphan girl, in your house or whatever, and now you're like, okay, like I just want to marry you now. Like it just, okay, we're okay. So that's how I feel about that drama. And then there's another one that I didn't really like. Which one was it? Okay, well, basically there's Meri Tanhai. I do like that drama more. However, it's a little bit frustrating because again, the main character is so self-righteous when he needs to be, and then he cuts corners for himself when he needs to. And it's just, oh, I just realized that I left my lighting on and it's not gonna look as nice. Oh well. Anyway, then another drama that I am watching is Meri Tanhai, and finally, I'm so glad. There's two things about the show that I really wanted to have addressed, and I can finally address it because I'm making a video now. First, we finally see that Meri finds out that the guy that's basically her kind of boyfriend, fiance to be or something, is actually engaged, and she was showing this interest and they basically confess to each other that they really like each other, and then she finds this out. So perfect storm because now she's pissed off, and it makes sense because like the whole time he's like, oh yeah, like Pakistani guys are so loyal, I just wanted to prove to her that's the case. Like, why did you need to do that? You're engaged to someone, and the only reason you were allowed to even come here is because of that engagement. And now, like, you know what, like, it's just, you shouldn't put your kids in these kinds of situations, because if they're like spineless kids, they're gonna do stuff like this. Like, he's immediately falling in love with this girl that he randomly sees a couple of times in the world when he moves to London, and it's just ridiculous. And the second thing that I really don't like, that really needs to be addressed, is the fact that they try to show that Meri's dad, who you know, walked out on her basically, is a good guy, because, you know, like, he eventually, like, they show his past and that he's like such a good person and whatever, but really he was spineless. And I understand that the circumstances were such that he felt that he had no other choice, but that is some bullshit cop-out situation, because he left his wife and child, is what they've showing so far, because his dad was sick and he needed to save his sister's marriage. And so he was just like this pawn. And this, the thing I appreciate is that I know that this does happen. It should not happen. And like, you shouldn't be using your kids as pawns, because you're ruining and messing with someone else's life. And it's so interesting that his sister and his mom just don't care. They're like, leave this girl, leave your child, because हमने अपनी बेटी का घर देखना है, and हमारे साथ क्या हो जाएगा, ये लड़की आपके साथ बुरा करेगी. I'm like, he's already been invested for at least 6 years, and now you're just like, just forget about it. Would you do that to your own daughter? Would you do that for yourself? No, you wouldn't. So how can you mess with someone else's whole life because your own family that you married your daughter into is treating her like shit? Ridiculous. And now he's like in this tight position or whatever, and then they basically are showing how like he was a victim, right? And the reality is, and the way they're doing that is because he, you know, he's got this successful business now or whatever, right? And I don't know if he ended up marrying his sister's sister-in-law. I think he did. Something must have happened. I don't know. I'm not really like as interested in that as I am interested in saying the fact that they're trying to show that this guy, you know, he just made some tough bad decisions and he regrets it so much, and he, you know, really loved his wife and all of that, because he's going to orphans or orphan homes or orphanages, and basically like, you know, taking care of them, providing love and supporting them as much as he can. And I'm just like, that's ridiculous. This is a cop-out. This is, the reality is there staring in our face. He made a terrible decision because he was spineless, and his parents and his family basically forced him into it, and he just went with it. Like, I feel like you need to resist a little bit when you're 6 years deep into a relationship with a child. Is that asking for too much? No, I don't think so. Anyway, there's another drama where I have a problem with the main male character, which is Adil, and that's because this drama is really good, actually. I am enjoying it. However, there's a couple things, okay? First, let's talk about the male main character. The problem with him is that he is so self-righteous. Again, he's like, oh my god, मैं बहुत अच्छा हूँ, मैं बहुत सीधा साधा हूँ, मैं जो मर्जी हो जाऊँ, मैं मतलब नहीं हटता बात से, whatever. And he accuses his wife of like eavesdropping on his conversation. She's like, girl, I don't do that, okay? That's not it. That's not the vibe. I was just coming in to check up on you or ask you if you wanted to eat something, like the dutiful wife you want me to be. And immediately after, literally immediately after, he's eavesdropping on his wife, and his wife is talking to her mom about him, and thankfully she's saying good things about him. I mentioned this in my last video too, and it's just like he's gonna switch up so fast, because the reality is, in Adil, now Maliha's ex is back and he doesn't know what's going on, and he wants to make everything right, and he thinks that they're just upset because he didn't get back to them as quickly as he was supposed to, because he had like a 7-day limit. And kya hota hai, uski maa behosh ho jati hai, and she's like, get out of here, get out, and he's like, all right, cool. I'm like, dude, the lady looks like she just died, and she does. She passes away, and you're just like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. I gotta go back. And I'm like, ridiculous. This guy is just failing on every aspect of life. Ridiculous. I cannot deal with this. It was so bad. But anyway, there's that. And the second thing, I have an issue with Maliha, because I'm like, bro, you could have just been like, hey, sorry, I moved on and this is not gonna work, because you know your family was atrocious, and I have a sick and dying mother, and I gotta take care of her, and now I've started this new life. Like ridiculous, ridiculous. And I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but I have an issue with Maliha's mom, because उन्हें बहुत ज़रूरत से ज़्यादा दिखाया हुआ है. Oh नहीं, and then bus, like it's just so funny. The acting is just so funny. Okay, I know that some moms can be like that, like, you know, बहुत अच्छे लोग and all that stuff, everything that they're trying to portray her mom to be. But उन्हें थोड़ा ज़्यादा, I feel like थोड़ा ज़्यादा किया हुआ है. I don't know, but unfortunately I think she's passed away now, and I think that Maliha's tough time is about to come up. But the thing that I find more interesting than their relationship, because I guess what's kind of sad is like everything's going fine in their relationship, Maliha and the guy's relationship, until now, and so maybe it's just not as interesting, but it's about to get rocked. But Sana's situation is so sad, honestly. Like, we gotta talk about this, because basically she's suffering the consequences of having shit parents, okay, that disrespected someone else's kid and someone else's family, and now she's suffering the consequences of her parents' actions. She tried to protect her ex, and now she ended up with this guy. Yeah, he's like a rich guy or whatever, but he's like an arschloch, and basically he's like sleeping around, wants her to get an abortion, facilitates her to end up getting an abortion, because standard, you know, she gets pushed down, and then, or like doesn't fall down the stairs, but she like gets hurt, and then she's like dizzy, and then she falls down the stairs, and all of that stuff. So it's just ridiculous that she's having to go through that. And I really don't think that she should be, like, I think she's going to, like, the way this story should go is that she should continue to suffer, and or like leave the relationship, but she should not get back with her ex, because her ex should be stable enough to understand that just because, like, he's like, they've shown him कि वो इतना अच्छा, इतना सीधा साधा, and he's like, I need the truth, and that's it. And like, he's gonna be so upset because Maliha didn't tell him that, you know, she had an ex or whatever, or that he's crazy or whatever. It's not important, right? You mentioned your ex because she came up, right? It actually happened, and you brought it up yourself, and you know, you want her to move past it. She's gone past it. She's showed up a couple times in the picture, and you know, Maliha's dismissed it or whatever, so you should be just as lenient with her. But he's gonna feel so betrayed. It's gonna be too annoying. That's why I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep watching this because of that, but we'll see. Now let's move on to some of the shows that I finished or am watching and are amazing. Okay, so first of all, we're actually going to talk about a show I didn't talk about yet, which is Tanman Nilo Neil. I don't know what that means, but I know Neil, I believe it means bruise or it means blue, something like that. This show was really good. I watched it very quickly, and I think I watched it in like 1 day or 2 days or something. It was so good, and it was really interesting because it focused on like really serious topics and things that people have to go through in Pakistan. But the problem with the show was, the reason I didn't watch it sooner is because the vibe was like, some of the trailers I just didn't like, but it was really tough to watch. But I appreciated that they decided to address these really serious topics, and I really, really, really enjoyed it, honestly. And I think it was very tragic the way it ended, but I think, yeah, they did a good job of ending it the way they did, because that's the reality for a lot of people. And I have more thoughts on it, but I feel like it gets too serious right now, and I don't want to, and I like have to focus on a couple other shows I really want to talk about. But this show was honestly so good. Tanman Nilo Neil. It's a very short drama too, so it's like, it wouldn't take you that long to go over the show, but it's definitely worth a watch. Then we have another show that I really enjoy, which is called Dastak, and I'm so excited because there's another episode coming out soon, and I'm so ready for it. And honestly, like, I was kind of like, I don't know if the show is gonna be good. I feel like they're gonna drag it, but we're moving pretty fast now. Unfortunately, Kiran has separated from her ex, and unfortunately, wo acha nahi nikal aaya. But the thing that I really love about the show is how realistic so far, for the most part, it has been pretty darn realistic. The dynamics, the relationships, and how people think when someone is going through this. And it's just so interesting to see. And it's so, the actor, the girl, like Kiran, she's doing justice to it. And it's so nice to see how everyone is dealing with the fact that she's going through a divorce. And it's the only thing that I feel kind of unrealistic about is the mother-in-law feeling so betrayed. And honestly, Faryal is right. All of this happened. You ruined your kid's life, you ruined your own life, you ruined someone else's kid's life and your grandkid's life, or you at least seriously messed them up just because, you know, you like this girl but we don't like her क्योंकि ये खानदानी नहीं है. And your kid was just so spineless that he ended up still pursuing this person even though he's married, just had a kid, just lost his own dad. And it's just ridiculous that he was doing that, but that's what he was doing, you know. And it's just really unfortunate. And the thing though is I feel like what they're showing, how Faryal is interacting with the mom, I feel like थोड़ा over हो रहा है. I don't know if people in those situations actually act like that, but करते भी होंगे, I don't know. But it's just kind of too much. And Kiran tells Faryal that basically the guy is spineless, but so sure, like, be with him if you want to, but like, she like warned her, and eventually this is going to come into fruition. And the second thing is, अगर आप किसी के साथ बुरा करते हैं ना, खास तौर पे जब उसने कुछ भी नहीं किया आपके साथ, तो फिर आगे जाके आपके साथ मतलब लग पता चल जाता है. And so I think Kiran's ex is going to suffer. On the flip side, it's really nice to see that, you know, even though they're struggling, her family is supportive, is trying to understand. But I can also understand that they are feeling that pressure, societal pressure. What's going to be really interesting though, inshallah, is she's going to try to get back on her own feet. And it'll be really interesting to see the introduction of this person that used to like her, but basically Ali Raza. His character is going to come into the picture, and I want her to be happy, but I want her to be whole first and then be happy. And the thing that I just want to say, like, maybe I'm not getting it, but like, she's going to wait till her iddat to basically try to get a job and get back on her feet. And I just don't know if that's realistic. Like, is that necessary? Like, is that a thing that needs to be done? I feel like it's just like a cultural thing, but I could be totally wrong, so I don't want to say anything, and probably should educate myself a little bit about that. But I feel like it's a little bit मतलब थोड़ा ज़्यादा कर रहे हैं, you know. But yes, that's how I feel about the drama. The drama is really interesting. I feel like it's gonna get more interesting. It was like, you know, it was a little difficult to watch actually, but it's a good show. It's a good show. Definitely worth watching. Way better than some of the other shows I mentioned earlier, especially Iqtidar. I just really don't get the situation with Iqtidar. I don't know why people love it so much, but they do. Then we have two more dramas. First, we're going to talk about Ishq E Junoon because it finally ended, and honestly, it was really good. The last few episodes were actually really good because they wrapped things up very well. I feel like some things came out of left field, but I have to say all the characters did a really good job. It was a really like emotional last few episodes. We finally get that, like, we get to see that Shiroz faces the consequences of his actions. Sorry. The consequences of his actions, and you know, everything gets wrapped up basically. The thing that came out of left field was the fact that Rahim is actually his biological son, and people, I was watching Something Hot review a while back, and they were saying like, this guy has to have some kind of like important background, and we find out that it's actually he's the saga beta of his dad. And what I liked was that they basically showed almost all of the characters were flawed, because even the dad had secrets and had some level of betrayal. You know, he didn't disclose this to his wife. I don't think he like cheated on her by having a second wife. I think this was before her maybe, but I could be wrong. I don't understand the importance. They mentioned the mom's name a few times. I don't know what her significance was, but they wrapped up the show pretty darn well. The only thing that I had an issue with, if you think about it, every single person was flawed, made mistakes, and tried to make things better, and you know, all of that. Even Shiro's, you know, he's begging at towards the end, like, you know, I don't want to do this, I don't want to go through this, please just forgive me or whatever. But Eamon has maintained this perfect innocence. Kyunki unke saath galti hui or whatever, but she didn't make mistakes, essentially. You know, she just got very unlucky or whatever, and then she's living her life. And I don't appreciate that, because I feel like that's very unrealistic, and that gives this very unrealistic standard for people in our society to think कि दूसरे गलतियां करते रहेंगे, but ये बहू जो है, बीवी जो है, या ये जो लड़की है, she, even अगर उसके साथ जुल्म होए या जो भी बुरी चीजें होते हैं होए, she will still be like that perfect sanskari girl to the end. It made no sense to me. I didn't appreciate that, because I feel like they could have done a little bit more with her character, and I think, you know, yeah, it's just disappointing. That was the only thing. But otherwise, really great drama, actually. And definitely better than Iqtidar. Definitely better than Iqtidar. Now the last show, guys. Qarz Jaan. Okay, look, I'm not gonna dwell on this too much, but Qarz Jaan is slaying. Like, everything has been so good with this show. The acting is amazing, the character development, the storyline. I cannot say enough good things about this show. You have to watch it. Watch it now. And the thing is, like, honestly, Qarz Jaan. The thing with Qarz Jaan is that it's just so good, because you're so interested in every generation's like situation and what they're going through. And honestly, I'm not here for like, oh, I want Nashwa and Burhan to be together or whatever. It's like, I want to know what's going on. I want to like figure out, and I want everyone to be happy, but I'm more interested in Bisma and Asim. But I think we're going to start to see more of the younger characters. And the thing with the show, I have to say, like, the evil uncle Taya, like, his acting, man, is so damn good. He's so scary. He does such a good job, but it's so scary. And in terms of what I think is gonna happen, for sure Nashwa is about to get married to Ammar. She doesn't want to, but the thing that bothers me is, like, would a child ever do this much for their mom's happiness, for their parents' happiness? It's really hard for me to believe that, but I'm sure they would. I just have trouble believing it. That's all I'm saying. And then the second thing is, I think Nashwa knows what she's doing. She's got to have something in her back pocket. I think she's going to probably eventually have Ammar go to jail and like be in a situation where nothing can be done about it, and then eventually get her freedom, which means that she's kind of playing with everyone, I feel. But obviously her uncle is like 10 steps ahead as well, and he is locking that property and inheritance or whatever of his deceased brother, because that's just because. And I also wanted to say that the mom, like the grandma, is a perfect embodiment of everything wrong with Pakistani culture, and just everything, every aspect of it, perfectly. She embodies it perfectly, and it's so sad to see. And like, bro, you know, like, oh, they take her Bisma to her like husband's grave and ask for forgiveness now, and you're making my husband like my son roll in his grave because you're getting married again. I'm like, listen, girl, just because you didn't want to get married again after your husband passed away, or maybe you were just not an attractive rishta for other people to be interested in marrying you, even though you have so much money and status and whatever, badi deendar hai or whatever, like, why are you hating, man? Bisma at this age still looks fine, and she can get married again if she wants to get married again. And they like basically have her like relieve herself of all of the inheritance that she's entitled to but never got because her in-laws are crazy. And now they're like hell-bent on making Nashra suffer and using her as a pawn in order to maintain their status and parda rakhna apne galat baaton se, whatever bad things that they have done, which they've done a lot, because their son Amar has is like basically confirmed rapist murder situation, and the dad also, and he's probably also done a lot of shady shit too. So I'm just like really frustrated about that, but it's really just so interesting. The thing is, moving forward, I feel like थोड़े से बोंगियां मारना का मौका अब आएगा. I feel like they could mess up now because it's just getting more delicate, everything, and they need to make sure they continue to maintain things and make them seem as realistic as possible in order to satisfy all the viewers, because they've done such a good job so far. So I'm really, really excited. But yes, those are all the dramas that I'm watching. I'm really excited to see what you guys think of all the dramas, and if you dropped any dramas given that it's Ramadan. I don't think I'm going to do another review until after Ramadan, because it does take a lot of time to watch these dramas, review them, edit the videos and all of that stuff. So I have cut down on a lot of dramas as a result, and thankfully a lot of them are not that interesting anyway, but the ones that are really interesting I am still watching. I know I shouldn't, but I am. And the plan is, moving forward, once the Ramadan is over, there is one drama I really like, Dilwali Galiyan, I think is what it's called. I'm really interested in watching that. My husband is saying that that one's really good, and he like sees a couple clips or whatever, so I'm really excited to watch that, but I'm trying to hold off until, and I think it's gonna be done by the time Ramadan is over, because there's like a thing, Ramadan ke mahine mein like some dramas air and they finish within Ramadan usually. So let's see what happens with that. Let me know what your thoughts are on the dramas so far that I've talked about, and I will see you guys in the next video. Assalamu alaikum.